The Young Bucks have responded to CM Punk's AEW Collision Jab. A top wrestling veteran has announced their retirement, and a huge bloodline match has been announced for Money in the Bank. Stay tuned for the news. Of course, we're just off the back of AEW Collision. It was quite a good start to a new weekly show. I'm quite excited about what it could be. There were some good matches on there. Of course, the big talking point, though, is CM Punk. He's now back in the company after he's not been seen since All Out last year, and he wasted very little time in taking a little jab at the Young Bucks, of course.
He said he had a lot to get off his chest, and it's important to note that this was one small part of the promo, but it's been picked up on by everybody. So, following a Flip the Elite chant, CM Punk claimed that Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav calls him one Bill Phil because he's the one true genuine article in a business filled with counterfeit bucks. Then a little wink, did a little wink, naughty little scam. He said during this promo, you'll have all seen it by now, but he did say during this promo, he's not going to be nice anymore. He's no more Mr. Nice Guy Phillip. You can call him whatever you fancy, but
stop him when he's lying.
I don't know if this was a planned thing, because I don't actually think personally that we're building to any sort of elite CM Punk with FTR, I imagine, thrown in there, sort of action. I think this is something that he can legally get away with because he can say the word buck.
Yeah, right? It feels like it's very much a sort of like, if you know the situation, you'll get the little jab, but it's a way to get around the jargon off it and so that he's not breaching any contracts or anything that he's signed that he can't talk about them.
The weird thing about this was, if you watch the little video that they had on Dynamite about CM Punk's return, it was all about how he was away because he was injured. But obviously we know that that's not entirely the case. There were various bits going on. So it would have been weird had he not mentioned anything. The Young Bucks have seemingly replied via their Twitter bio. It's been changed.
Their bio has been changed. Obviously, their Twitter bio is the key way that they get a lot of their messaging across these days, but it's been changed once again. Said, if it were in 2018, we'd already have a counterfeit Bucks shirt available on Pro Wrestling Tees. Kill it, y'all. And of course, they absolutely would. They would have a brand new t-shirt up on there. I wouldn't be surprised if, even now, if they can get around it, they probably will try and get away with it and have a counterfeit Bucks t-shirt.
Well, maybe AEW will print them and they'll get a little cut of it. You'd think so, wouldn't you?
But like, that's printing money for AEW. Just going like they're playing both sides of it, so they always win.
There you go. It's all quite light-hearted, right? Like their response to it is quite light-hearted. They've not gone absolutely mental about it, and I think that's probably as much as we're going to get. CM Punk is going to be involved in other things now. He's got a belt with, one would assume, a belt in it, which he never lost. So he's coming back, and it looks like he might be targeting MJF. Don't expect him to be working with the Elite anytime soon.
You mentioned that he had a bag with what it was alluded to be a title in it. We didn't actually see it.
Might be a snake.
It might be a snake.
Could be anything.
Influenced by Jake the Snake Roberts. But speaking of titles, we do have a new champion crowned on Collision last night. We saw Wardlow defending his TNT Championship against Luchasaurus. It was an open challenge that strangely got answered well before the show started, but Luchasaurus was able to defeat Wardlow and take the TNT title from him with a little bit of help of Christian Cage. It was Christian Cage's victory here.
Yeah, Christian Cage. I don't think we saw Luchasaurus touch the title once, which I quite like. Christian be like, yeah, come on, it's me. I like that. I feel, and no disrespect to Luchasaurus, because I like Luchasaurus a lot, I feel really bad for Wardlow. It feels like he's totally back at square one at this point. I don't know what you do with him at this point. That belt has been hot potatoed around all over the shop. That's the guy you feel really rubbish for, because like everything was going his way following that dominant victory over MJF, and then all the controversy with MJF. Nobody was talking about Wardlow anymore, and I just feel super bad for the guy. I don't know what you do with him at this point, because I feel like you've stripped away everything that made him really like great.
Special. Like it made him unique and feel like an actual star, and it just feels like he's had the belt there for, I think the reign ended after 59 days, and none of his reigns have been memorable, like at all. I can't really think of an iconic moment for it apart from the swanton off the ladder at Double or Nothing.
Oh, there's been cool spots and everything, and like some of the matches have been pretty decent. It's just, I think his character is, people are done with him, and that sucks because Wardlow's awesome. Like Wardlow, and I don't even think he's a difficult bloke to book. I think there's a way of getting around this, and that's having him hit rock bottom once again. Sorry, not once again, but he hits rock bottom. and then briefly aligns himself with MJF. MJF tempts him back into the fold, and then at least he's in he's going to be on TV a lot. He's in with MJF in prominent spots on the card, as well as frequent TV time, and then maybe run it back. But honestly, I think they've done him a total disservice.
Especially when that big moment in the CM Punk MJF dog collar match where he passes he's not got the Dynamite Diamond ring, and it was such a moment in that match that Wardlow was a big attraction for, and it feels like a massive drop down the card for him. But maybe with Collision, maybe they're wanting to fresh start with him, get the TNT belt away from him. Maybe this will freshen up his act. We can hope.
Maybe it's on to bigger and better things, you know? That might be it. I don't think it is, personally, but maybe that's the thinking there. Let's start talking about Wardlow again. Let's start talking about Wardlow, not everybody else.
Yeah, well,
I really like him.
I'm enjoying his stuff. But let's also talk about Chris Hero, because he was backstage at AEW Collision, according to Fightful Select. Yeah, that's a big name backstage.
Yeah, they reported he's scheduled to be backstage. Other places now reporting that he was indeed backstage at Collision. Reportedly, he's looking. They're looking at him as a potential name to join AEW, possibly in a backstage capacity, according to Fightful Select, and is set to be working with the company on a trial basis.
When we were watching it live, we'd speculated that maybe he could have been Miro's opponent.
I think he's more valuable backstage. Right? I don't know if it's about him being too big. I just don't think. I think his value lies certainly in wrestling, but not necessarily in the ring. Like, he's such an experienced vet at this point. He's been there for in professional wrestling for so long. You have him backstage. I think he's a very, very valuable guy who can teach a lot of people a lot of things. He's awesome. I don't expect to see him in the ring very often, if at all, anymore. So I think it's a good spot for him. And you know what? I actually think he'll be happy with it.
Yeah, no, that's
genuinely,
absolutely.
His passion is wrestling, and if he gets to pass on his knowledge to younger people, then
I feel it's going to be tough to turn down a Kings of Wrestling reunion. Him and Claudio, just something.
You want to see it, though?
Something in ring, even if it's Ring of Honor, maybe not on AEW. But staying with AEW just a minute here, Tony Khan has spoken about the brand split, but maybe lack of brand split on Busted Open Radio. What did he say, Adam?
He said, no, it's not a separate roster. Gives us an opportunity to showcase a lot of the top stars in AEW and feature certain stars week to week. I never said there'd be a hard roster split. In recent media appearances, I've been making it pretty clear that it won't be. Great opportunity for the fans to see featured stars on these Dynamite shows and Collision shows week in, week out. But we also have rivalries carry over between the shows and utilize the shows to make follow-up matches or settle grudges or book big title matches. I mean, it's something obviously he's spoken about quite a lot recently. I'm actually in favour of a hard brand split. I know that's not what we're getting. I would prefer to see a hard brand split, because I think the problem is when you've got wrestlers appearing on both Dynamite and Collision, that certain people end up being overexposed, and you've got the same issue with such a bloated roster in AEW that people don't get the TV time that they deserve. But at the same time, it's not a black and white issue, this. You've got one world champion, right? And having a show without a world champion isn't ideal. So I can totally understand why you would need like NJF to float between the two. If tickets aren't selling very well, you could advertise CM Punk for the other one, as long as the Elite aren't there, etc., etc. So it's a complicated issue, but it's hardly a surprise. I just hope the people that we've not seen utilised on TV get that time.
Yeah, I'm just to jump on a second, I'm also in favour of a hard brand split for AEW. It was one of my favourite things about WWE. Are you Team SmackDown? Are you Team Raw? Growing up,
it's fun, isn't it?
It's really fun. You can get a brand you feel associated with it. And the thing about the world title is, I feel that's the way to elevate the TNT and the International Championship, to be like, they're the top titles in each show. Your world champion moves back and forth, but it does leave one show for a little while without that key program, which isn't very ideal. We've seen it happen in WWE with Roman Reigns taking the title, disappearing for a few months at a time, and then we're left with a big void. But speaking of Roman Reigns, he is going to be at Money in the Bank, and it's going to be a big match because he's going to be facing the Usos, and he teams with Solo Sikoa. Of course, on SmackDown, we saw Jey Uso super kick, finally super kick Roman Reigns and sort of end the bloodline. This big match is being sort of billed as the Bloodline Civil War, and I personally cannot wait to be in attendance for it. It's going to be fun.
Legit, watching that, it doesn't happen very often, but I got goosebumps. I think it was such a brilliant segment. It's so good. Just when you think that sometimes, hey, the Bloodline stuff, maybe is it getting a little bit stale? they advance it in a way which is just so excellent. And yesterday, I think, was amazing. I didn't watch it live, but I watched it back, and I was just like, wow, they've got me hooked again. They've done it, and they keep doing it. They're all at the top of their games right now. And I think it can only continue to get better. It's really great.
I think I was also drifting from it post-WrestleMania, but Night of Champions got me back into it. Jimmy turning, and then it being the drama over the past few weeks of Jay, what's he going to do? Finally, I think this could be it. And Jey Uso, just that one super kick solidifies him as main event Jey Uso. He feels like a massive deal. And I'm hoping that when we get Reigns and him opposite each other in the ring at Money in the Bank, it feels massive.
Oh, it will. I love it. I love the branding of it. Bloodline Civil War, I think, just sounds awesome.
It's cool, right?
I'm very envious that you're going along. I think it just looks.
It's gonna be good fun. But that's good. Of course, going to be taking place in London, and another big British star who's unfortunately not going to be on the show, Doug Williams, has announced his retirement.
Were you expecting to see him there?
He might have been in attendance.
It was a good segue.
Thank you. I was trying to get the segue.
3 in the morning right now.
Tell me a little bit about Doug Williams.
Tell you a little bit about Doug Williams. He's been and done it almost all. He's been all over the shop. A lot of people will learn from his time in TNA. Some people watching this will be familiar with him from his work as Mr. Brexit in WCPW. He is one of the most seasoned veterans of the UK scene, who has obviously made a big name for himself internationally as well. But he posted an image today to his Twitter from a W3L show of his wrestling boots left in the ring. Previously, he had tweeted, "This will be my last wrestling appearance for the foreseeable future, so make sure you attend." It very much looks like he's hanging the boots up, or at least leaving them in the ring. You know what I'm saying? It looks like he's retired.
Yes.
Doug Williams is seemingly out of things. He did retire briefly, I want to say a couple of years ago. He disappeared for a little bit. He came back, and he's been having really, really decent matches. He's another guy who, he is super valuable to any major promotion who would want to pick him up. Like a lot of his pals, like a lot of people who have come up through the British wrestling scene, your Johnny Mosses, your Robbie Brooksides, and now doing great stuff in WWE. I imagine that WWE or a similarly sized company, there isn't a similarly sized, AEW might pick him up.
But even with the history of Impact, I feel like the backstage role in Impact is a great spot
Connections
for him.
there already.
Exactly.
So we wish Doug our best, absolutely.
That's all for the news. Hope you enjoyed Collision. Go and check out all the fantastic videos we've got coming up. We've got Ross's Building a Perfect WWE Superstar. You can watch it on Patreon just now. But that's going out at some point today.
And a list.
And a list.
We spoil you.
Oh, so much content. We'll see you later.